It started with a whisper in the code, or so the forums claimed. Back in 1996, when the world was still pixelated and dreams came in 8-bit hues, Pokémon Red and Green hit the shelves in Japan. Kids everywhere clutched their Game Boys like talismans, trading secrets in schoolyards under the cherry blossoms. But something lingered in the digital shadows of that game. A town called Lavender, where the dead Pokémon rested and where the living ones began to falter. I remember the first time I heard about it. It was late 2009, scrolling through an old GeoCities page that hadn't been updated since the turn of the millennium. The site was a relic, its MIDI files autoplaying tinny tunes that clashed with the browser's warnings about outdated plugins. Lavender Town Syndrome, the header read in garish purple font. A peak in child suicides, it said, right after the game's release on February 27th. Exactly 30 years ago today, as I sit here typing this, stroking my long matted hair that's gone unwashed for days, fiddling with the thick-rimmed glasses that slide down my nose from years of late-night screen stares. Gosh, my reflection in the monitor shows a gaunt face, shadowed by stubble, eyes sunken like they've seen too many digital ghosts. February 27th. A coincidence? Maybe. But the air in my room feels heavier now, like the screen's glow is pressing down on my chest. The story went like this. Children aged 7 to 12, bright-eyed trainers on their pixelated journeys, would reach Lavender Town. The music there wasn't quite like the cheerful Roots or the triumphant Gyms. It was a dirge, slow and looping, with notes that climbed into frequencies only young ears could catch. Adults dismissed it as eerie ambience, but for the kids it was something else. A siren call that burrowed into their minds. Headaches came first, sharp as glass shards behind the eyes. Then the irritability. The nights spent staring at ceilings, whispering to shadows. And finally, the axe. Ropes slung over beams, leaps from balconies into the indifferent night. At least 200, the rumours said. But numbers like that dissolve in the fog of urban legend. Of course, official reports were scarce, buried under corporate denials from Nintendo. Mass hysteria, they called it, blaming overactive imaginations and the stress of modern life. Yet parents spoke in hushed tones on talk shows, their faces blurred for anonymity. One mother described finding her son in his room, Game Boy still clutched in rigid fingers, the screen frozen on Lavender's tower. He complained of voices in the music, she said, tiny pleas that sounded like Pokémon cries but weren't. "Leave now," they seemed to say, though she couldn't quite hear them herself. I dug deeper that night, caffeine buzzing in my veins as the clock ticked past midnight. Forums like 4chan's X-board were alive with threads, users posting spectrograms of the original track. Extracted from bootleg ROMs, the audio files circulated like forbidden artifacts. "Don't listen with headphones," the warnings read. "Especially not alone." Curiosity won, of course. I downloaded one, hit play. At first it was just a melancholy chiptune, the kind that evokes rainy afternoons and forgotten graveyards. But then the high tones crept in, faint at the edges of hearing, like wind whistling through cracked bones. That's when the meta layer unfolded, or so I tell myself now. The legend wasn't just about the game. It was in the game, woven into its digital fabric. Lavender Town wasn't merely a waypoint, it was a threshold. In the lore, of course, it housed the Pokémon Tower, a mausoleum for departed creatures. Ghosts haunted its floors, ghastly, haunter, the spectral remnants of lives cut short. But expand that thought. What if the tower wasn't just for Pokémon? What if it echoed real losses, pulling at the threads of players' own griefs? Some theorists claimed the programmers had embedded subliminals, drawing from ancient Japanese folklore about Yurei, restless spirits that whispered madness into the living. Was it possible through screens? One account stuck with me from a survivor named Hiroshi, who posted anonymously in 1997 before vanishing from the net entirely. He'd been 9 years old when he played the red version. Reaching Lavender, The music hit him like a fever dream. His headaches grew into visions, shadowy figures in the game's static, unowned letters floating like eyes in the void. Unowned, mind you, didn't actually exist yet, not until Gold and Silver in '99. But yet there they were, he swore, forming words in the audio waves.
Leave now.
Not quite a command, but a plea, or a warning. I paused the track then, my apartment suddenly too quiet. The city outside hummed with life, but inside it felt like the walls themselves were listening. I shook it off, chalked it up to suggestion, but as I researched more, the lore ballooned. Conspiracy sites linked it to binaural beats, those audio illusions that sync brainwaves. The high frequencies over 20,000 Hz weren't in fact random. They were tuned to resonate with developing minds, amplifying theta waves associated with hypnosis and dread. Why? Some say it was an accident, a sound designer's oversight. Yet others whispered far darker motives. Population control experiments or a disgruntled employee's revenge. Something like this had intentionality. One wild theory tied it to the armed Shinrikyo cult active in Japan then, suggesting their music mimics their secretive sonic weapons. But the creepiest expansions came from fan recreations. In 2010, a YouTube video surfaced, using quote special software to visualize the sound. Not just spectrograms, but full exact renders. The wave files twisted into shapes, unowned glyphs emerging like fossils from stone. Arranged, they again spelled leave now. But zoom in, and there were more. Subtle distortions hinting at faces, screaming mouths frozen in pixels. Possibly children. The uploader disappeared shortly after, their channel scrubbed. Comments lingered though. I heard my name in the static. My kid won't sleep now. I decided to go all in myself. Why not recreate it? I was an adult after all, ears dulled by years of noise. I fired up an emulator patched in the original Japanese ROM. The game loaded fine, Pikachu's cry as cheerful as ever. I sped through the early routes, collecting badges like forgotten trophies. Kinda like riding a bike, you never forget the best strategies. Viridian, Pewter, Cerulean. Man, the world felt alive, nostalgic. But as I approached Lavender, a chill settled in. The screen seemed dimmer, the battery icon flickering, though my laptop was plugged in. Entering the town, the music started. Familiar, yet a tinge distorted somehow. I can't quite describe it, but something felt off. It was slow, deliberate, like footsteps sneaking in an empty hallway. I listened, waiting for the highs. At first, nothing. Just the loop, poignant but harmless. But then it built, layers unfolding. Not headaches for me, but a pressure, like eyes on the back of my neck. I glanced around my room. Shadows in corners I'd never seen remained still, as if they were playing games with me. The kind that shift when you're not looking. Pausing the game, I analysed the audio myself. Freeware spectrograph open, I fed in the track. Waves danced on screen, peaks spiking into the ultrasonic. And there, in the noise floor, patterns began to emerge. Not just unknown, but something more, perhaps. Faces? No. Silhouettes. Childlike. Hanging limp. Or jumping. Limbs flailing in digital freefall. I blinked and they were gone, swiftly dismissed as pareidolia, but still the translation lingered.
Leave me out.
Or was it leave me? The lore deepened in my mind. What if Lavender wasn't a bug, but a feature? A digital Ouija board summoning echoes of the lost? What if those suicides weren't from the music alone? They were simply invitations accepted. Kids sensitive to the unseen, having somehow crossed over, lured from one world to another, from ours to the unknown one. And here their spirits linger in the code, whispering to new players from behind the files, invitations to those who listen. Hours blurred. I kept playing, tower floors climbing. Ghosts appeared as usual, but not just in-game. Peripheral glimpses, shapes in my window pane, a child's handprint on the glass. No, trick of light. And yet the music persisted, even after I quit the emulator. Humming in my head, a tinnitus that shaped words. Research turned frantic. I dug into the deepest corners of the dark web for any sign or shape to prove I wasn't going mad. I was onto something. After many hours, I unearthed declassified docs, Nintendo memos from '96, redacted but hinting at audio anomalies in the coding. Programmers like Satoshi Tajiri, the creator, officially denied involvement of course, but his interviews post-incident in these newly found and unreleased QA sessions carried a chilling edge. Games are worlds, he'd said, and sometimes worlds bleed. Then the real twist, February 27th, 2026. Today. 30 years exact. Forums buzzed with anniversary events, users reporting glitches in modern remakes. Pokémon crying human names, Lavender's theme reverting to the original in midnight plays. One post even claimed a hidden ending. Reach the tower's top at 2:27 AM and the screen fades to black. Whispers ensue, names of the 200 dead, listed like credits. I checked the clock, 2:15 AM. Stupid, but I reloaded the game. Climbed the tower, heart pounding irrationally. Floors passed, encounters fleeting. At the summit, Mr. Fuji's new dialogue. Pokémon are like people. Then static. The music swelled, highs piercing even my adult ears. Screen glitched. Unowned swarming, forming not words but a mirror. My face? Unmistakably younger, the birthmark which had faded after puberty now back and bright under my hollow eyes. The power flickered and failed. In the dark, the humming remained. Not from speakers, not from mind. Not even from within ears on a body long gone, or perhaps yet to be. I type this as dawn creeps, but the room stays dim, the edges of my vision pixelated like an old screen. The files open, spectrogram still running, but my fingers feel lighter, smaller, a child's hands tapping keys that dissolve into code. Patterns shift in the waves, not their names, but mine. Where once were limbs are now twisted glyphs, all as one, elongated and broken. We float here, the 201, our whispers in the waves calling out to the next player. Join us. The town awaits and sings. Shh. Can you hear it?